here, this house out here, before he ever got his papers to go farming. There's people all around us being, I can't think of the word, but they was constantly getting a paper to go.
They're being drafted?
Yeah, be drafted. And finally he was enrolled in the mailbox. Here it was. He finally got there. But you know, I followed him all over the states and everywhere. I drove myself now, mind you, and this had 2-lane highway back then. You had to watch what you was doing pretty much, because you know, just 2 lanes. Well, it'd be easy to get over in his lanes if you didn't watch it, you know. So I was just trying to think, when was it I went to Texas? That was my first roundup. Went to Texas. Well, I went in November, stayed till April next year, and he was going to ship out. He said we was going to ship out, and then I'm not allowed to tell which county, which country we're going to. He said, you know, they have you to take oath that you won't, you know, knock your country rather. So he come in one day, and, well, I got the mail, I think, out of the mailbox, and I said, this is for you. And he looked at it. He said, well, I knew I was going to get one sooner or later. But some of them around, the Jeff and Little Maid, that was friends of ours from Knoxville, and he got called to go to military. He was manager of Mayfield Milk out on Broadway. And he said, this beats the H out of me. He said, there, he says he don't do nothing but run a tractor or something like that. And said, I'm the manager out there. Said, that just beats me. I don't like what. And he thought he was too good to work in the dirt, I reckon. But Ham had a much better job than he did. He was over, right away they put him over a group of men. And he'd tell them, you know, we needed this done or need that done. And Jeff, they give him, he's had to practice walking ever so far and back. He's out in that hot sun just marching. They do a certain level, you know, your education. But on the other hand, you know, Jeff had a little more on paper, so to speak, but he just didn't know how to do nothing on way. He didn't like it because he couldn't fix a tractor. Well, Jeff they sent him off to another state. They just keep you there on base till they can find a place for you. And so they was going to ship him to down in North Carolina. It's a military base down there. And Ham wrote me a letter, and he said, come on down that weekend, because after that they wasn't allowed to have no guests, because they're getting ready to ship out and go overseas to Scotland, I think. And so I guess I was down there. I rode the Greyhound bus, I'm not sure which one, or they just drove, I guess. So I went down there and stayed about a week, and they shipped out. Or he told me, he said, no need to come back because they won't allow me to have no company. They're getting ready to ship out. So we partied that morning. I think I had my car, and anyway, we packed up and everything. But he was going to go on a Greyhound bus, so they was going to take a lot of soldiers down there, getting them ready to go overseas, you know. So I stayed around until we got all that packed, and I decided to come on. And I don't know what time they picked the soldiers up, but we'd ride back and forth to each other. But you couldn't see no one because he's already shipped out and gone. He said, we're not even allowed to tell what day we leave. It might be sabotage. But I was riding a Greyhound bus one time. It might have been that trip. And this colored boy, I felt sorry for him. They wouldn't let him ride that bus. They took 4 of them soldiers sitting back there in the middle ways of the Greyhound bus. Boy, they got up and run up front and just pushed him back. Well, you know, that poor boy, he's just about 16. Well, he tried again, and they'd shove him back. And 2 or 3 of the boys, men on the bus, got up and went out there. They thought it was going to be a fight. Because that driver had what do they call them things they hit you with?
A nightstick?
Huh?
A nightstick?
Yeah, something like that. And that driver got that out of his outfit, and he stepped down. He said, "Now, boys, you can't ride this today. There'll be another one coming after a while, and you can ride it." But he just made all that up. It might have been true. So he already had his load, but he would not let that boy ride. There's this real prejudice against colored people.
Mhm.
But while I was down there a few days. Well, this is Sunday morning come, and they come to the bedroom and pecked on doors. Said, would you folks like to go to Sunday school with me today? And I said, yeah, we'll go with you. And so we got up and got dressed, and I went with him, but he didn't go because he had to be on duty in case, if they needed him. But I went with him to Sunday school and church, and best I remember, it seemed like we walked. We must live close to that place.
This was in Texas?
Huh?
This was in Texas?
Uh-huh. Yeah, in Texas. Well, let's see, right before he shipped out, though, we sent to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So he really shipped out from there. And that's whenever I come back home to drive my car. And, oh, it was dusty. You just don't realize you pick up dust. You go a long ways, it finally shows up. And I thought, well, I can't go home, this car is dusty. And, I pulled in a film station, SO. And car wash back then, it's about $25. And I said, I'd like to get a car wash. And so my car would look real pretty and clean. I went home, I'd hate to go in, it's all that dust. They thought, well, where had you been?
So then you and Ruth moved in together? So then Ruth came down and stayed with you?
Yeah, but Claudia really did.
Oh, it was Claudia.
Yes, she stayed with me. And I never talked her into staying with me. She was working at that corner drugstore. Finally, I got her to fill out an application and work at WWII with me, and other girls. And so finally, and Claudia got her job down there. I'd get the application paper, and they'd fill it out, and I'd take it and turn it in. 2 or 3 days, they'd get a call, come to work, But Claudia's slow about making a change. She'd worked there at the drugstore so long.
So she was about 20 years old.
Yeah.
And then I know that you and Pappaw wrote each other just about every day, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. And I don't know what we think about, but we managed to get it some words in the paper. And so Edith Harmon, she lived up the road there, and she didn't get no mail for a few days because he shipped out, no doubt. And she said, I'd like to know why it is. I can't never get a letter from you. He hardly stopped by. She wasn't getting one. And he said, well, you get more letters than anybody on this route other than Mary Bridges. She gets the most of them, most letters. We just write all silly stuff, we miss you. We hope you get home, and this, that, and other. Then we'd think of something we'd cook, and we just made conversation.
And didn't you send him care packages sometimes?
Yeah, we did. And Bonnie, he said he'd love to have some onions. And so we had some in the kitchen cabinet. And seemed like that oatmeal box, we packed it full of onions. Oatmeal box, that's pretty hot. We sent him plenty of onions. But he said they were so hot. He said, are you sure that was onions, or what's that other word where they're so hot?
The garlic?
Yeah, garlic. He said, I believe that was garlic. I said, well, Bonnie helped me read that letter, and it said, you'd love to have some onions. We don't know garlic from onions.
Well, I asked him about it one time, and he laughed. He said, I think she was trying to kill me.
Funny.
And then Claudia and Wendell took you up to get Pappaw when he came back, didn't they?
Yeah, Daddy saw his name in the Courier, or the other paper, whichever.
The Sentinel?
Yeah, and it said East Tennessee was bringing home the soldiers that was at Camp Hood out in Texas, and they arrived to so-and-so, Dyer and all that. and they're leaving out, shipping out. They're allowed to say that, shipping out a certain day. Well, I decided to go get me some gas, a tank full, because gas was scarce. You couldn't hardly find gas. Well, I finally wound up in Oak Ridge trying to get gas at 11 o'clock at night now. I didn't wait till I had them in there. And we pulled in that station. That was the station where I bought the car way back. And he said 72 Nova, you know. So we pulled in there, and I said, "Do you have any gas?" He said, "Yeah. Back up your car here, and I'll fill it up." And I got a full tank of gas. Wasn't that good?
Mhm.
And it's 11 o'clock. We didn't care about it. He didn't worry us. You know, I could hold the road and this and that. And so off we went. But Wendell started driving, and he drove all the way. I think did all the driving. Well, we finally got there, and then they had names of the building way up over the doors. You know, we finally found the building number where he'd send me a mail, you know, back and forth, and that was where the barracks was. But out front was office. So we told them who we were and what we was there for. So they filled out the paper. Got an honorable discharge. So that's good, isn't it?
Mhm. Now this was Fort Knox. And didn't you just happen to be sitting at a light or a stop sign or something, and Pappaw walked by and
opened the door? I thought that I was telling something, talking, of course, and once that door opened, I just almost fell out, you know. I said, "Well," then I seen it was a soldier.
Your soldier.
Yeah, and he opened the door. You know, we was waiting on the red light to change, and so we could go on. And he said, "I seen y'all go down the street." He was back up at another building. And he said, "I seen that car go down the street, and I knew it was y'all." So, boy, he walked fast down there. I guess he had to go as far as in here to that house over there. Pretty good jump, you know. And, because he'd pulled on out, I don't know where they took us to. But there in Texas, they had two little houses in the backyard. It kind of reminded me of them little houses Grandma used to have, Mama used to have, that rented them, you know. It's just enough, it's just one room, mine was, and it had a stove and a table and a little cabinet for your dishes. And over here was the bedroom. There was the bed and the dresser. And anyway, it's real cozy the way they had it arranged. But it was cheaper than the two bedrooms. They were next door to us, a little ways out. And he was a lieutenant. I'd see him come in on Friday at noon usually. And he was real close, you know. And I could see that he was a lieutenant by his uniform. They had two little fellers, and the wife, she was there. And but they were still there when I left. You know, Ham was shipping out Fort Bragg, North Carolina. We wasn't out there. Well, we was there from November till April. That was about 5, several months.
Yeah.
But Miss Barrington, her daughter, she had been to camp with her husband way up in Virginia, I think. And so he wrote that he was going overseas and not to come back up there. You know, couldn't see one another. And so Miss Barrington said, "Now I want you to come over here and spend some time with Grace." Said, "You and her, I noticed a good buddy," said, "you're always getting together." And said, "Now, when it gets real cold weather, you come on over here." And said, "Our house is warm." So it did get cold, you know, time or two. And I'd go over there and we'd get busy talking. And they said, "Now, there's your bedroom now. When you get ready to go to bed, you just go ahead and go to bed. Because I'm going to my bedroom."